again, welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to share this knowledge with you, and I will share the screen. You should be all seeing it right now. Is that correct? Good. So how to give a pitch in our industry? It's actually no other than anywhere else, but maybe before I start, I will tell you a short story. So I was often invited to participate in startup pitches, and what I've noticed is that very often very good ideas unfortunately didn't win. And the reason for that was that the storytelling was not compelling. And usually, as you know, startups get 2-3 minutes to really sell their idea to an audience who doesn't know at all the product or their solution. And that's how much time you really have to shine. So I prepared a little slide deck for you. Hopefully that's helpful. Somehow, okay. So what is a pitch? It can be a speech or presentation which is prepared in attempt to persuade someone to buy or to do something. So what forms or what skills are essential for this? So we know that, so maybe first of all, who do we want to persuade? Who do we want to, what do we want to achieve with a pitch? So very often the pitch is prepared as a presentation for investors in order to finance your idea or your startup. We often, when you already have your company running, very often you want to, of course, sell your product. So you prepare such pitch deck for your clients to convince them to buy your product or service, or you want to attract your next employee, best world talent to your company, to your startup in your case. So really good pitch maximizes the chance of winning. And the ways to deliver really vary. So you can do it as a pitch deck, you can do it as a slide deck. This is usually in relations to investors pitch. Sometimes you have the opportunity to stand in front of the people, show your face, show your emotions. That's much easier. But very often you have to send the slide deck. So that's, you don't have a chance to really introduce yourself. Then it can be done also as a video, or as I said, the live pitch. So in average, and you can Google this question, you will get different answers, but on average, investors really dedicate 2-3 minutes when we talk about the dry slide deck, which you send to them, or sometimes you surely are familiar with the live pitching, and I've seen it as short as 1 minute, so that's not much time. On average, 2 to 5 minutes. So you need to use this time really wisely. Before you start, the most important question to ask yourself, and those are the guiding questions, is what are you trying to achieve with your presentation? Are you trying to get a next meeting? Are you just introducing your idea and presenting your product to customer? Are you trying to present your startup and win a competition, or convince an investor to invest in your idea? So you have to first define why you are telling this story and what do you want to achieve with your story. So that's your starting point. The second thing is, of course, to understand who is your audience. So are you, again, pitching in front of the investor? Are you perhaps speaking to an architect or an engineer or a contractor or employees or media? And you need to understand also their needs. What do they care about? What are their problems? How do you want to move them in a way emotionally as well? What do they look for? What kind of information will resonate with you? So in other words, before you start putting slides together, you have to put yourselves into the shoes of the people you will be presenting to. And this is, in short, a good pitch. Doesn't have to have many slides. You can actually cover all of the topics within 12 slides. And I would say from slide 1 to 3, that's the typical structure. So you start with the welcome, where you have one memorable line with your idea. Then you move into the problem. You illustrate what is the scale of this problem, and then you present your solution. And then from slide 4 till the end, you can actually shift those slides depending on what story you are trying to tell. So typically after the solution, you want to show how big is the market, because as you know, it doesn't make sense to solve a problem which will solve problem for maybe 1,000 people, because you have to have an idea, of course, which is scalable. You need to have a running sustainable business, so the market has to be suitable. The size of the market has to be right. Then you can move into the product. You can define, show how you solve the problem with your product, what's the USP of it. Then for the trust building, of course, would be great if you can show attraction. What I'm seeing also, if you are starting with your idea, or you just set up startup and you don't have any achievements yet, you might want to actually refer to similar achievements from other industries, but sometimes you can even show it with achievements of the competition, of course, highlighting how you will do things better or different. Then the business model, because investors like to know how the money will be made. Go to market, so how are you taking this idea to the market? Competition landscape, so who are your competitors? What exactly they are doing, more importantly, what you want to do better or differently. And the next point would be telling why your team is the exact team, and the call to action. And this is very important. So usually you are presenting in order to get something, information, money, validation of a concept, and so on. So you need to be very clear at the end what you are looking for. You need to be clear about that. And of course, the last thing, which often is forgotten somehow, is the contact details. And when you are doing live pitch, would be good to have maybe a QR code, or whichever way that person who is interested in your idea can get in touch with you. And I would like to show you a little bit in more details, and also with more guiding questions, how that might look like. So the first thing, as we said, it's the welcome, is the line, memorable line, where you want to catch the attention of people. And I took an example, the Airbnb, before the Corona time, and everybody surely knows that company. So you can see very clearly they are talking about it's the booking room with locals rather than with hotels. So within this one line, you can already see what they are trying to do. And then you have the guiding questions. What change are you trying to make, and what are you doing exactly for the customers? And just to let you know, I'm happy to share those slides with you, so you don't need to make screenshots or notes. The next one is the problem. And I must say this is one of the most slides, because this is where you really emotionally grab the attention of people. You want to show the scale of it. And in their case, in Airbnb case, was the price. And then explaining exactly what is the concern of the customers when they are booking online. And then other problems which they defined. So I'm not going to read the slides, but you can see this is very clearly stated, not much text, but the problem is clearly defined. In our industry, I would suggest what works very well also is using photos. You see this also, especially when we talk about climate change, you can really see what the impact of it is. So you need to illustrate what this problem is, and what gap are you trying to fill, and again, paint the picture of what you're trying to solve. The next one is the solution. So what is your plan in solving that problem? How will you solve it? How will you solve the problem for those people, and demonstrate the right time, that this is the right time to solve the problem. It's not too early and not too late. And then, you know, with very innovative ideas, sometimes we are too early. And this is where you want to explain that this is the right moment. It's proved. And as in any ideas, very often when you have a good arguments, you really can take the reader to the next page, and then they really want to find out how you solve the issue. So with Airbnb, the solution is very easy, and they make it very clear on this slide. Save the money, make the money, so save the money for the traveler, make the money for the host, and share the culture, so the local connection to the city and creating the community while staying in those very often remote locations. Now the market size is, again, it's about showing how big is the market, predicting also how big it can be, how the investor will make the money, because that's important for the investor. And again, very nice and graphic way is the best way to capture their attention. Then going to explaining your product, so more the technical explanation of your product, how the product solves the problem, what is the USP, how does it work. You can explain the technology behind it, if it's blockchain or any other technology, but very clearly you can see step by step how the solution is solved, and this you can demonstrate again the platform you are designing or any technical details behind it. And the traction is showing again how is the current situation. You need to provide, of course, the facts. You measured it very often before building the product, and this is what we explained last time. You should gather some data, and you should show to the investors and those ones who are potentially interested in your product. You should demonstrate to them that there is an interest, you checked it, you had some visitors to your website, you had an article by some media. So you really need to show the interest into your product. And I've seen interesting solution or interesting examples where somebody didn't build the product, but really went and spoken to a few customers, and they could really say, hey, we do have pre-orders. We even ask people to pay 1,000 francs for pre-booking. And this is a good validation also, especially for the early stage. And the business model, how do you gonna get paid, how your product will make money. This is also a good way to show why do you gonna need money at the end, because if you're speaking to an investor, you want to show the opportunity for this product you are creating, the revenue, and then at the end you can ask for the money to build your startup to invest in your idea. And go-to-market strategy, it's really about hands-on. How do you gonna go from idea to implementation? How do you gonna reach to those customers you defined? Very often when we talk about technology, not hardware, but software, you can find a way also by buying ads, and especially consumer to consumer goods. This is much easier than you buy Facebook ads, and this is usually where the investors' money goes. In our industry, slightly different. So you need to be very, very clear on how do you gonna reach the customers. And this is showing also the investor that you understand where to find your customers and how you're gonna speak to them and convince them. Competition, and again, the competition, it's good. I always say it's good to have a competition, because that's a good sign that there is need for such solutions. But also what's important is to show that you will be doing something better than the competition, not only different, but better. And this here, you have to be very clear what the competition is doing, where do you spot the gaps in the market, how do you gonna differentiate yourself. And also you can show even the good results and seeing the appetite of customers for this specific solution. The team behind it, that's something I would like to mention. Very often in our industry, the team will be, it will only be technical or engineers or IT specialists or very, very technical team. And what's important here is to show that the team has various experience. And if you don't have that within a team, what's smart to do is, of course, to have either mentors or advisors or anybody, of course, with experience in some economical backgrounds, so finance, some soft skills like the communication, marketing. And again, you don't need to have that yet within a team, but it will be good to show to investors that you do understand that the team has to be has to have different various skills, and that you are outsourcing them somehow by having just maybe advisors. And the call to action, and again, I listened to pitches by startups rather often, and not many actually make use of the opportunity to clearly say why they are standing on this on front of, let's say, 300 people and pitching. And this is an amazing opportunity, because sometimes it might be just one investor is sitting there with whom your idea resonates, and they just want to invest, and it's very easy for them to understand what you are after if you simply say it. So call to action should be very, very clear and always mentioned at the end, and that also shows your confidence, what you are, that you have also very clarity in what you are looking for. And a few golden tips. So first of all, as you know, and you know this also from your experience, I'm pretty sure, people follow those ones who have passion. So if you are talking, talk with passion. And the structure of this of those slides, in a way, they also give you a lot of confidence, because in order to prepare them very clear way, you will gain that confidence. So you need to rehearse it, and presenting in front of big audience requires rehearsing quite a few times, that when you stand there, you know what you are talking about, you speak with confidence. Simple and visual slides. I'm a big fan of the slides of Steve Jobs. Not many words, very clear. I always remember them somehow, even after the presentation. So this is definitely a skill. And sometimes when you say just the dry deck, of course, you need to be a little bit more descriptive, but there is a rule. No more than 3 bullet points on each slide. Somehow our brains work this way, that when we put more, we don't remember already. By the 4th one, we forgot what the first one was. So the rule of 3 applies. Don't read the slides. So of course, you spot this straight away when somebody is presenting and somebody is reading. You can tell that they are not very confident in their own product, because they have to see what's on the next slides. So the information on the slides is for those ones who are just sitting there. And again, if you overload the slides with text, usually you will lose the audience, because people naturally start reading. You need to believe in your idea. Sometimes ideas seem very crazy, and the reason for that is that you might be already seeing somehow signals of change or trends in the technology, and you can predict already that in a few years' time this will be the next big thing. But the rest of the people, they might not be there yet. So you need to be the one leading your idea. You need to believe in your idea. And when you do it, when you show it with the passion, and when you present with the passion, you take people with you. And tell your story. I always say it's very nice if you can really clearly also say why you came up with this idea, how you spotted the problem. So just that you connect with people on the personal level. And this one line of Twitter line, I think it's very, very catchy. You can always share it with others. And it's always when you can combine your big idea within one sentence, that means you really understand what you are doing. And there is this famous saying by Steve Jobs. He was never talking about iPad. He's just said, 1,000 songs in your pocket. And this was, avoiding speaking about 5 gigabytes or whichever memory that had. It was very clear what you can fit. So this is also the customer centricity. And just few tips from me. There is no courses. There are some courses, of course. You can, if you do pitching probably at TEDx, then you can or TED Talks. You really have a coach for presenting your idea. but it all requires practice. So practice, 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 go out, pitch your idea, get feedback from people, adjust, get better, repeat, and just enjoy. And really with this, you gain a lot of confidence. There is some few things you can follow. There is more than few, but the two which I quite like is the book, Life is a Pitch. So that's a really nice compact book, and you can read it. Maybe you can even find a PDF online. And what I do very often is I try to actually not watch, but listen to pitches. And I really like Monocle. You can download this app for free. It's Monocle, and within this, there is the entrepreneurs, Monocle entrepreneurs. And here you have usually half-an-hour interviews, which begin with pitches by founders of really well-known companies. And by just listening how people speak about their ideas with confidence, how they present it, you can also learn from others. So I think I'm pretty much finished. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them right now.